By 1887, the era of frontier gunfights was largely over for Wyatt Earp. After his time in Tombstone, Arizona and various ventures, mining, prospecting, travel, Earp and his partner wife Josephine Earp Josie turned toward a different kind of gamble, real estate and business. San Diego at that time was undergoing a dramatic real estate boom. Railroad expansion was bringing growth and speculation. Real estate values and demand for entertainment, saloons, gambling, and leisure were rising sharply. Earp recognized the opportunity. They arrived around 1887. Earp was about 39. Though not a lawman anymore, Earp did not abandon risk. Instead, he redirected it into business, where they lived in real estate investments. For a good portion of their time in San Diego, the Earps lived in the Brooklyn Hotel. Their residential address at one point was given as 946 3rd Avenue, though available evidence suggests this was likely rented rather than owned. Beyond lodging, Earp invested in multiple real estate holdings. He purchased the northwest corner at Ash and Columbia Streets, today the site of the John Hancock Building. San Diego reader. He also bought the northeast corner at Beach and Union Streets, now reportedly a small parking lot, according to one later account. San Diego reader. In the residential area of what is now Hillcrest, he owned a whole block along University Avenue between 4th and 5th Avenues. San Diego reader. Additionally, he owned 4 lots at the intersection of 1st Avenue and Lewis Street, on which, in modern times, there are houses and a small apartment building near the UCSD Medical Center. Thus, Earp didn't just dabble. He accumulated a substantial real estate portfolio in various parts of San Diego. Saloons, gambling halls, and entertainment. Earp as entrepreneur. Earp's principal business focus in San Diego was on saloons, gambling halls, and entertainments. Between about 1887 and as late as 1896, he owned or controlled 4 saloons, gambling halls, all located in what was then the respectable or commercially active part of town. Notable establishments: Louis Bank of Commerce. The building at 837 Fifth Avenue was constructed in 1887. It was the first granite-faced building in San Diego, shipped around Cape Horn. In that building, Earp operated a saloon gambling hall known as the Oyster Bar. The Oyster Bar was one of his key establishments. Above or associated with the Oyster Bar was a brothel called Golden Poppy, or at least an upstairs brothel linked to that saloon, owned by a woman known as Madame Cora. Contemporary accounts describe each room painted a different color: emerald green, yellow, ruby red, etc., and the women required to dress in matching outfits to the room color, a flashy, theatrical touch designed to lure clientele. According to local historical sources, his other gambling houses were located, one on 4th Street, between Broadway and East Street, fronting what was as yet a nascent Horton Plaza, another in the 800 block of 6th Street next to the Hotel St. James, and a third on the north side of East Street near 6th Avenue. In total, the gambling halls offered at least 21 games, including popular Victorian-era games such as Faro, Blackjack, Poker, Keno, Monte, Pedro, and various others. At the height of the boom, Earp reportedly could make as much as $1,000 a night in profit. In the town's 1887 directory, he was listed under capitalist or gambler, a formal nod to his new identity as a business magnate rather than a frontier lawman. Other ventures: horse racing, boxing, speculation. Earp didn't limit himself to saloons and real estate. He also leveraged his Old West toughness and love for competition into sporting enterprises. He had a long-standing interest in boxing and horse racing. In San Diego, he refereed boxing matches, not only locally but also in neighboring places such as Tijuana and San Bernardino. His entry into horse racing began when he won a racehorse named Otto Rex in a card game. From there, he invested in racehorses, entered them in competitions, and sometimes rode or drove them himself. He also judged prize fights and county fair horse races. For example, he was a judge at the 1889 fair in nearby Escondido, California. Thus, Earp used a mix of entertainment, vice, gambling, legitimate sport, and speculation to try to build a fortune, a shift from his earlier lawman outlaw life to entrepreneur sportsman. Decline, crash of the boom, sale of holdings, departure. Unfortunately for Earp, the San Diego boom was as fragile as it was dramatic. The bubble burst quickly. Population, real estate demand, and values collapsed, from about 40,000 around 1885 when Earp arrived down to, by 1890. Though the Earps moved for a time in 1891 to San Francisco, California so Josie could be near family, they kept their San Diego properties. But the decline in value, plus inability to pay taxes, forced Earp to sell off his lots. By 1896, he could no longer afford to own his own racehorses, though he stayed in the racing business as a manager for a stable in another city, Santa Rosa. Over time, the gambling halls and saloons faded. The lavish lifestyle of the boomtown gave way to a more cautious existence. Significance and what it meant for Wyatt Earp. This San Diego period shows a different side of Wyatt Earp, no longer a frontier marshal or gunslinger, but a businessman, gambler, speculator, and sportsman. That transformation illustrates how many Wild West figures adapted or tried to adapt as the frontier closed and boom towns matured. Earp's involvement in gambling, saloons, and entertainment, including a brothel, suggests the fluid morality and blurred lines between respectability and vice in late 19th century boom towns. His investments, real estate, racing, gambling, show ambition. He aimed big. Saloons, multiple lots, racehorses, entertainment venues. For a time, he may have achieved the kind of wealth and influence he once sought with his gun. Yet the collapse of the boom and his eventual forced sale of holdings also illustrate how speculative ventures, even under legendary names, could end in loss, especially when the boom towns settled or bust. What remains today? Legacy and historic memory. Many of the buildings, streets, and districts of Earp's time in San Diego have long since changed, but some historical markers tie his old era to the present. The Gaslamp Quarter, the downtown district that includes many of the sites where Earp had his saloons, gambling halls, is now a historic, revitalized part of San Diego. The Louis Bank of Commerce building at 837 Fifth Avenue still stands, or at least its legacy is recorded, marking the site of his oyster bar, gambling hall, saloon. Through these and through historical research, such as that compiled in works like Wyatt Earp, The Missing Years on San Diego in the 1880s, his San Diego years remain a fascinating, often overlooked chapter in his life.